real quick, before we get to the debate last night, what is your job at CNN? And how did you get this job?
Great question.
I don't mean that rudely. I'm genuinely curious. Like, I'm grateful you're the one holding down the fort for us there. So I'm just like, oh, how did this happen for you?
Sure. Well, I am CNN senior political commentator, and so if you watch the network, you see me across the shows commenting on the news of the day. I'm the senior Republican commentator there, and I've actually been working there for over 7 years. I got hired back in 2017, and a lot of people have come and gone since then, but I've been steadfastly holding down the fort, and my job, honestly, is to go on and any show and spar with the other contributors, talk to the hosts, and really, in my opinion, reflect what the average Republican, the average conservative, and in my case, I think the average person in middle America might be thinking about the news of the day. So like last night, it was the Kamala Harris interview with CNN, so I was on before and after to give my thoughts, but I'm pretty much doing it every day right now. It's been wild lately, I got to tell you.
I'd say like you're the guy. So it's you and the big table that they have. I would say too many people, but whatever. They have a big table of people, and it's like you and Axelrod and all these other people who are not conservative. What do the other people around the table think of you?
Well, I have to say, and if I might about my employer, CNN has been very, very good to me. They have, I only ever really got one set of directions, and that was to give my authentic views based on my values and my experience. That's all anyone ever really told me to do, and I've faithfully done that. Not a single person has ever tried to script me, censor me, rein me in, dial me up, whatever you want to call it. And so,
but they just put you one verse 5 is what they do to you.
And honestly, man, I really don't mind it. In terms of my colleagues, I've actually gotten pretty close to David Axelrod and Van Jones. We spend a lot of time together. I consider them to be sincere people. I think they're good people. They have a different worldview than me. And I think we treat each other on the air with respect. It doesn't mean I agree with much of anything they say, but I respect Axe, especially as a practitioner. I mean, the guy elected president twice and has a storied career. So, I listen to what they say, and I think if you want to hear debate and you want to hear what the other side is thinking and how they're analyzing things, you're going to get a pretty good viewpoint from Axe and Van and some of our colleagues. So it's fun. I enjoy it. They are good people. And I've been grateful for the friendships I've been able to form. Now, I don't let my friendships get in the way of my commentary on the air, and I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you exactly how I see it. But at the same time, I think they respect what I have to say, and I respect what they have to say. And we'll see who comes out in the end.
That's good. Well, Van won't hold back what he has to say for the sake of your feelings either. So I'm glad you don't do the opposite back. Yes, it's going to be really interesting to see what CNN does moving forward. In my perspective, they do a lot of whiffs, and we could document those. We won't. I want to get to the debate or the conversation last night, but then you have the debate, and CNN did a pretty good job.
Yeah,
and they played it straight. And then I thought last night, from Dana's perspective, like you guys, like I thought it was going to be. I thought last night the first interview was going to be like the 60 Minutes or CBS Sunday Morning thing where they go to Kamala's home and they show her the kitchen, and here's my dog, and here's the school that Tim Walz coached at, and take us a tour. I thought it was going to be like that kind of puff piece, but it wasn't. They sat down, talked 20 minutes, and laid it out there. I thought that was pretty good by CNN.
Yeah, Dana did a good job, and she asked the questions that we as conservatives have all been asking about, which is how can Kamala Harris be the most progressive liberal in the 2020 presidential campaign and now profess to be, a moderate, a centrist, whatever you want to call it. Dana got right to it. And honestly, I don't know about you, I was unmoved by Harris's explanations of how she has evolved on these issues, especially when you go back and look at the video from 2019 on fracking. She's explaining, from the heart with this deep, heartfelt speech about how she has to save the planet for her nieces. And now she's just like, yeah, I'm not for it anymore. And my values haven't changed, but I'm not for it anymore, which, by the way, makes no sense. I was totally unmoved. But the fact that Dana sort of got her to look into a camera and kind of blankly say that, I thought it was an important moment for this campaign, because people need to understand, I've come to believe what you're dealing with here is just an actor. She's an actor. And she'll say whatever lines anybody puts in front of her. In 2019, it was ban fracking. In 2024, it's I won't ban fracking. She's reading lines handed to her by someone else, and you have to ask yourself, is that what you want in a president?
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think there's two things she does believe in deeply and profoundly, and I think it's the environmentalism stuff. Just growing up in California, well, Montreal, but like being growing up in that as an adult, like going up the political ranks in California. I think she really does believe that environmentalism stuff profoundly. I think this from 2019. Let's play the whole thing here so we're on the same page. I think this is actually her.
No question I'm in favor of banning fracking. We have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. I think about this issue through the lens of my baby nieces, who are 1.5 and 3 years old. And when I look at those babies and I think about what the world will be like in 20 years if we don't act, I'm really afraid. And as it relates to those Republicans in Congress, where I've now been for 2.5 years, every one of those members need to look at the babies, the grandbabies in their life, and then look in the mirror and ask themselves, why have they failed to act?
Okay, so I think that's phony outrage, but I think she genuinely does believe that environmentalism stuff, and then abortion. I think those are the two things she's a true believer on, and everything else is acting. What do you think about that?
Well, I think, look, I try to look at people's motivations and their experience. I mean, she's a California politician whose first instinct on the national stage was to align herself with Bernie Sanders. So you're probably right. Now, how much of the explanation about her nieces was real versus, a consultant saying, "Oh, this will be a good story to explain your position"? I don't know. I mean, I think if she had a magic wand and there were no checks and balances or no constitution, I think you're exactly right. Now, I do believe they've told her in this election, you can't believe this anymore, because you can wave bye-bye to the state of Pennsylvania if you do believe it.
That's right.
And so, what's more important to her, her deeply held beliefs or, power, winning and the pursuit of political power. And my guess is, look, it's her career, right? Trying to climb from one office to the next. So she's, if you're right, and those are her beliefs, they probably are. What may be even more scary is that she's willing to subjugate virtually any value for the pursuit of political power, which is also kind of a dangerous trait in a politician.
Yeah. Do you think Democrats are worried right now, as the argument is she's probably hit a peak post-convention? We have the debate coming up. We'll see. But we got 60 days, maybe like 30 until some early voting starting, 60 overall. Where's the next turbo boost for her? Do you think Democrats are worried?
I think they're worried because she and she alone, has the capacity to screw this up. I mean, let's be honest. Last night was not a great night for her. I mean, she's kind of a vapid tosser of word salads. I mean, it is what she is. They think they can probably win on it, but you can't live on it for the next 10 weeks or whatever we have left. She's got to get through the debate, and Trump does have to execute in that debate. But they're probably mostly worried about Harris herself just not rising to the occasion, just the way her presidential campaign flamed out before. Now, at the same time, they are feeling, I was at the Democrat convention in Chicago for CNN, they're obviously feeling optimism and momentum. And how could you not? I mean, they got rid of boat anchor Joe Biden, who was obviously going to lose in a landslide, and they replaced it with someone who's effectively become generic Democrat, right? They're an avatar. She's just kind of a vessel for the anti-Trump worldview. And so now they feel like they at least have a chance to win the game. But if I were in their shoes, I would be worried about the fact that she appears to be maybe a point or two nationally. And Donald Trump has always been down way more than that in his previous two races, and they've never quite captured his vote share. If I were in their shoes, I'd be worried, are we going to have the same kind of polling miss? Because if we are, she's going to lose, and it's not going to be particularly close.
I'm talking to Scott Jennings, political strategist, on-air CNN contributor. Can we let me play this? I'd love your take on the border back and forth between her and Dana last night.
Big one is immigration. As vice president, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
Northern part of Central America.
The northern part of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S. During the Biden-Harris administration.
There's 3 points. Let's stop on that one. What's your postmortem on this for years she's the border czar, and then all of a sudden she's not the border czar.
Yeah.
What happens in the media world that's a thing?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been trying to unwind this. I mean, I sort of go back and look at the way it was covered at the time. I mean, even Joe Biden described her, more broadly than just a very narrow thing. I think she had a deep responsibility on handling the border. I think she failed. And I think now there is an attempt to be made to minimize that. My personal view is she was supposed to be doing something on it. She did nothing really on it. It's even worse than that. Honestly, it's now you have people that go on TV and say, "Oh, but she was a success because of how successful everything is now," which to me is sort of the craziest talking point. But I do believe there has been a coordinated attempt by her people and her campaign to try to convince everyone that she really, really had nothing much to do with the border except for this one narrow area. I don't personally believe that that's true, but that's the yarn they've been spinning.
Which leads to the second point.
There were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. The number of immigrants
Okay, so on that point, so we actually had a Slater hater call on yesterday, and give me this point that must be going around in the Democrat world I've never heard of. Central America Forward, about these private-public partnerships, that investments that are happening. I never heard of this before until yesterday.
I've never heard of it. Never heard of it. Don't care about it. Not interested in it. I mean, look. The average American voter is like, okay, we have a border. People are coming across it at will, and your answer is yes, but some business invested in Honduras, so shouldn't you be happy about that? Like that. That's just that. That's it. Look. I think on this issue, their plan is to write as many vapid, overly wrought bullet points as possible in the hopes that she will read them verbatim and just run out the clock whenever she's asked this question. I think that's basically what they're trying to do.